Hello, everybody. We have a full agenda today, so I want to get started. Welcome to the Transportation Committee meeting, the afternoon of December 5th. I'd like to start by asking our interpreters to explain how to access the interpretation services. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please go to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on interpretation, icon world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenas tardes. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumoya, the Genyo, the Sueño, the Copoño, and the Coilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Francesca, can you confirm a quorum?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum. Currently, North County Inland and the Port of San Diego are absent.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and be moving into the agenda. I'm going to start out today by going, we do have a full agenda. I'm going to start out today by going with 2 minutes per comment on the agenda items, and we'll see how we progress the agenda with that. Francesca, do we have any non-agenda public comments?
Yes, we have 4 members of the public who'd like to speak on this item. Let's start with Purita Javier and Cesar Javier.
Good afternoon. I am Purita Javier, senior with existing medical condition and victim of ceramic kiln toxicity next door since 1997, hazardous home business at 5238 Streamview or San Diego 92105 since 1984 in a residential zone community. Since 2022, we voice our community problem for most on ceramic kiln toxicity with the APCD, and up to this moment, no action has been taken. Why? The leadership is not elected or voted by San Diegans. Its mission is simply to ensure clean air for all, meaning for the rich and poor San Diegans. It has tasks to achieve its good, namely, number 1, air quality, number 2, health, number 3, community engagement, Number 4, environmental justice. And number 5, lately, as it implements CEQA, climate change action. APCD governance is run by Director Paula Corbis, where
Okay. Cesar, this is about justice, accountability, transparency. We circulated, if only to search for solutions, and at the same time to plead, if need be, to kneel down to solve our community issue. Toxic gases we breathed 24 hours since 1984. And who is accountable in our district? It's there. The elected Councilor Rivera, then the President, Council, City of San Diego. He wrote us a letter, Mr. Javier, I will reach out Air Pollution Control District without knowing that he is one of the governing board member. I volunteered to be even an alternate or even a janitor at the Air Pollution Control District, if only to help that agency. And you know what? Councilor Rivera stood up and talked to the chair. It was Sue, Councilor Sue, a member of this board last year. Why did you block my volunteerism? Because you were always absent in the governance, rule-making, rule implementing. And that role, which is a vintage role, exempt ceramics home business. He cannot stop this because he would like to protect his neighbor doing the same business. No one is above the law or below the law. We have the reason to believe, my confession, that Air Pollution Control District is not for governance, not for public welfare, but for businesses. That's the
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Jeff Huter, followed by Blair Beekman.
Thank you, board members. What I'd like to talk about today is your major transit stops map as we get to the end of the planning process for the 2025 regional plan. One of the things that's important to do is subsequent to that plan, you'll be creating a major transit stops maps that in particular is used not just for transit priority areas across the county, but for San Diego Sustainable Development Areas map. And one of the things that's become apparent both through legal action and by further analysis of the sustainable development areas is that many of the stops that are on today's major transit stops map are not actually derived from the 2021 regional transportation plan. What happens is the plan just specifies potential routes for new transit. It does not actually contain the specific stops that go with that transit. The stops themselves are not planned until very far into the process when you do a final engineering design. And so it's unclear how this process is even happening, that people are taking candidate routes and assigning stops to them, but we'd like to have a stop to that. You know, the major transit stops need to be what they are. And I think there's a misconception that if we zone for more and more land to build housing, that somehow that's actually building housing. And that's not the case. There's a substantial harm in allowing development under the promise, particularly affordable housing, under the promise that those residents will have access to transit. And if that transit isn't for 20 or 30 years or doesn't exist, that considerable harm has been made to those residents, and we're asking you to stop that harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. I am sitting up in the San Francisco Bay Area trying to clean out my storage space still. I've been attending the public meetings up here or here in the Bay Area. I've been trying to consider how to better describe and work on what they're working on here in the Bay Area, as well as down in San Diego also. The ideas around where's our current state of law enforcement and our work with technology and issues of crime and violent crime. I think we've all been really impressed that we've been making some really important strides in reducing violent crime throughout California in the past few years now. Technology has possibly had a part in that. And it's like, where do we go from here from this good work now? I think we've actually withstood current federal administration and Trump ideas who wanted to come in with 10 tons of new plans and enforcement policies and even ICE agents and stuff. And we said, you know, hey, we're doing a good job here. You don't need to, there's nothing that you have to overdo. And he took that to heart, and he's laying office, I feel. And we have kind of our own choices, what to determine our future direction. What will be that direction now? Are we going to choose more and more law enforcement, more and more technology as how to solve our issues? Or is this a time that we've accomplished goals that we start to consider, you know, more, I don't know, you know, just our better human selves and how to practice our law enforcement and tech needs and to deal with crime issues through social services, things like that. So I just wanted to mention that's how I'm thinking at this time. Good luck how we think about this plateau period we're at right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one final speaker on this item, Jim Barros. You can go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you. You can go ahead.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Zito and members of the committee. My name is Jim. I've been a commuting cyclist in San Diego for over 50 years. I love that San Diego has progressed with the many bikeways. Thank you for your efforts. But for decades, we've had a problem with the river trail that the West Valley crossing remains undone. And it provides, when we get this in place, it provides a critical shortcut and a crossing so that we can avoid using Marina Boulevard north and south, having to cross freeway on-ramps in both directions. I think this essential safety link is still missing, and I encourage you to prioritize its funding so that we can get this, make it more convenient for more people to use bicyclists. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That concludes the public commenters.
Thank you. Mario, do you have an agency update?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to discuss several items or brief TC on several items. Our Senior Planning Director, Antoinette Meyer, has been engaging, as well as myself, but she's been really our hands-on team member on discussing with the other major MPOs in the state, as well as different interest groups on SB 375 reform. We will be bringing a report to our executive committee early next year. But there's been a group, not just the MPOs, but some environmental groups, building industry, different walks and sides. And there's quite a bit of consensus on a lot of items. And we'll be bringing that up and seeing if that can create some traction for some legislation update. At no time we're trying to go against SB 375. It's actually after 20 years of almost the bill being approved, is looking at what worked and what can be done better, and always focusing on implementation, doing more to really achieve those goals to reduce greenhouse emissions. We will be bringing the regional plan to the board next week for approval. That's very exciting. I also want to reflect a little bit on what's coming next year. Next year, there's going to be a robust conversations on managed lanes on our different toll facilities. Otay Mesa East business rules for the tolling. So we are looking into different strategies of back offices for those future projects, as well as how it could potentially also function with our existing projects and looking at the different items or how it's done or operated with other agencies in the state. We also kicked off our assessments for the toll operations department, an organizational assessment, and that's very valuable. Also, taking into consideration that we really need to have a robust structure as well as a IT infrastructure for those future discussions. We will be bringing in that discussion and the outcomes of that assessment here. We just in the audit committee, we also had an assessment on our finance department. We will also be kicking off an assessment for our HR department. So everything is starting to come together, and we're very excited. Very happy to announce to the Transportation Committee that last month we began construction on the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry and the actual construction of it. So we're very, very excited about that. Also, SANDAG through the California Public Commission granted $2.3 million to FAC, which will allow them to expand service to the airport. So that's another very crucial service that's needed. And congratulations to FAC for their 20th anniversary. And finally, this is the last Transportation Committee of the year. So I really want to wish happy holidays to all of you, and SANDAG offices will be closed on December 25th. That concludes my report, and January 1st. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mario. Do I have any committee member comments, non-agenda comments that I would like to make? Seeing none, we will then move on to the consent calendar. Francesca, do we have any public speakers on consent?
Thank you, we do. We have 4 public speakers on this item. We'll start with Cesar Javier and then go to Jillian Quint.
Thank you, SANDAG. This item is most welcome. It's a good, better, best direction. And we are just to report to you that we are doubtful from District 9, City of San Diego, on bike lanes. This is a blight, actually, in a particular district, District 9, under Councilor Rivera, University Heights or Avenue. Come and see how mobility transportation is occurring since the wrong construction of infrastructure, 3 roundabouts. Where can you find a roundabout that is being used as a straight lane? It's only in District 9 under Councilor Rivera. What else? Bike lanes, paintings, bike softener, concrete blocks, asphalt blocks. Confusing. Come and visit El Cajon Boulevard, District 9. People didn't want such bike lanes markings. It's clean and wide. Why can't our District 9 do it justly to all streets? Something is wrong. Why can't he solve safety aspect in our community, not only on mobility and transportation? Why? Why, Mr. Rivera, sir? SANDAG is for mobility transportation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Jillian Quint, followed by Corey Lee.
I hope you enjoyed a holiday with loved ones. Hello, I'm Jillian, she, her with the San Diego River Park Foundation. Speaking today on item 3.2 regarding the critical need to fund the West Valley River Crossing pedestrian and bike bridge. We are here to ask the committee's help to rescue this project from long-range abandonment. We appreciate Councilmember Whitburn recognizing the urgent need and thank him for his strong letter of support. Over 16 years, communities have been anticipating this safe connection, a missing link that transforms alternative transportation into preferred transportation by opening safe access to employment centers and residences along this vital regional corridor. Mission Valley's population is projected to triple by the year 2050, which leads to more traffic, more air pollution in an area already identified by Cal Enviro Screen as an environmental justice concern due to air pollution. Without a crossing, it forces pedestrians and cyclists into unsafe traffic, which violates our Vision Zero commitments. The river is the saving grace for this area. It's the ecological heart of the city's natural heritage. We should use its presence to deliver clean mobility options, not condemning residents to further pollution and danger. This bridge is an indispensable artery that unites the city, creates a safe, non-motorized connection to Sefton Field directly from the future Riverwalk Trolley Station. This investment makes our public transit shine. By completing the link in the San Diego River and Bikeway Trail, we establish a backbone of green infrastructure, open up safe alternative routes, and connect eastern communities with the coast. Our local coalition, including Mission Valley Planning Group, Presidio Little League, YMCA, and others, are dedicated to stewarding this area. In one day last month, just ahead of the rain event, we had 82 volunteer community members clean up a whopping 3,400 pounds of trash from the preserve. Committee members, we know that if a project isn't in the RTIP, it doesn't get built. Our review confirms that the West Valley Crossing is unprogrammed and currently not listed for funding. We are asking the committee to use this moment to publicly champion the West Valley Crossing and expedite the necessary preparation to secure its funding in the next RTIP funding cycle. Please help us ensure this critical project is funded and delivered immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Corey Lee, followed by Blair Beekman.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Corey Lee, and I am a college student at UCSD who represents the generation that will inherit today's climate and transportation decisions. As someone who cycles for commuting and for recreation, I believe that completing the West Valley Crossing will make me, my friends, and my family feel safer when biking along the 8. Currently, pedestrians must share the road with vehicles to continue on the San Diego River Trail, which is way more hazardous than having a continuous pedestrian trail. If you are building a system where clean alternative transportation is the safe and preferred option, we need to address this gap and complete the West Valley Crossing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final speaker on this item will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. The thing just prompted up. Yeah, hi. I wanted to comment on the meeting minutes of last time, item 4, transit fare change study. This item's been coming around to here and at San Diego City government recently. And I'm interested in how we're talking about it in terms of back in 2018 to 2020 or so, there was a lot of talk in city governments about fare issues and how we could possibly end fares altogether. And ideas like that. With the arrival of COVID, those things kind of got put away. And now that we're coming out of COVID and with like the recent election of the New York mayor, city mayor, who he wants to do away with fare issues for his city, bus fare issues, it's brought up the idea that I'm not so concerned about ending fares altogether, which is really decent and important, I think. But what can be overall economic models we can talk about that are different? We're all preparing for the big 2027 year for transit agencies around the state and country that seem to be locked into this system that they have to make big decisions at that time. To me, it's asking the question, not just how do we raise fares and cancel routes in order to create more funding streams, but genuine different economic models altogether. I think those are the kind of questions we need to be studying. And it's not just ending fares, it's economic models. How do we develop different economic models that don't make the consumers suffer, that don't make everyday people suffer, ridership? So that's my question, and that we don't hurt route use and good stuff like that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Do I have any? Yes, go ahead, Sean.
Thank you, Chair. I don't wish to pull any items, but I did want to speak very quickly to 3.2. Thanks, Jillian, for being down here and speaking on behalf of the River Park Foundation. I would very much be interested in seeing staff look into ways to leverage the RTIP process and future cycles to support the acceleration and acceleration of the West Valley Crossing pedestrian bridge and bikeway. As Jillian mentioned, this is a project that's really important in eliminating a dangerous gap that currently forces residents into dangerous crossings. The more connected our bikeways are, the more likely they are to be used. Those gaps oftentimes make the difference between someone seeing a path to their destination or not. And so certainly would like to see this prioritized and elevated in future cycles. With that, happy to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, Chair.
Motion by Hila Rivera. Do I have a second? Second by Mendoza. Yeah, I'd also like to thank the speakers for coming out. I would be happy to second the comments made by the vice chair. It seems like a good opportunity to try to figure out how to make some progress. With that, call for, oh, sorry, Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you very much. I did want to address, let's see, where did it go? Item number 3.3. And that is as to the annual report that goes to the legislature. And that is because in there, it talks about advanced project activities that would support the future implementation of a 15-minute frequencies on Sprinter. And that is in Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, and Escondido. And because of the implementation of the amendments to the SB 79, may get Oceanside into tier 2 based on frequencies. I'm very, very concerned about that because since about 2001, City of Oceanside has been promised some connectors to be able, because Sprinter was built on an existing industrial track and didn't really go anywhere, hasn't still, to places like that where public would love to be able to go via public transit, such as Miracosta, the Tri-City Hospital, the North County, the courthouse, the shopping mall. I mean, there are several places that would really would benefit the public to get to have those connectors. In the past, I don't know if you recall, but the connectors were discussed in work centers that were identified in Carlsbad, but none in Oceanside. So to date, we don't have that. And so we have been talking more about micro transit and more of an emphasis on getting micro transit to help us move folks within Oceanside to places like where we're building out the El Corazon on Rancho de Oro, and where there will be housing and lots of people trying to get there based on the multi-uses that are at this 500-acre site, including an indoor arena where the Soccers now kind of basically reside, as well as the G League for basketball, and also and some other sports that are now coming to North County, Oceanside specifically, but in terms of in general North County. So I do want to say that I do feel that we need to be looking at these in light of other, you know, these broader issues of SB 79 and its application, because number one, we don't
Okay.
have work centers in
I think
Ocean.
Antoinette wanted to address that point. Should we have her address the?
Sure, let me just finish my
Oh,
comments.
okay, sorry.
If you
Yeah,
don't mind.
yeah.
Because this wasn't even in the horizon, okay? So I'm bringing up an issue that is, you know, because of the governor signing it into law, there are things that are going to change, and Oceanside and much of North County still continue to be commuter cities. It's Oceanside is the most northern part in the county, and so over 60%, like 63-4% of the workforce still travels by car alone for an average of 22 miles. If we're really going to be able to change this, it's got to include every, you know, the study that is broader for analysis, and to get people to go to, more people to use the Sprinter. But certainly we need to start balancing the things like the, you know, SB 79 and kind of the destructive things that it might do to, you know, half a mile from the Sprinter. To our communities, and still not really address the issues that SB 79 is designed to address, and that is affordable housing. So if people are not going to work or going to the doctor's office or going to, you know, school like Miracosta, I mean, I think it's great that the Sprinter goes to Cal State San Marcos and Palomar College, but really doesn't go anywhere else. So I'm just saying that we really need to have a broader analysis to include microtransit to get people to these places. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Was there anything you need to add to that? I'm sorry.
I don't think that was a question as much as a comment. so
Right,
it's
yeah,
okay.
it sounded like a comment. And I mean, I do seem to recall, I think the board actually took a position of working against SB 79 as well, right? So we
But
acknowledge the
SB
impact.
79 was approved, and we'll
I
be
know.
coming back
Yes.
later this year, early next year, with a very preliminary draft map based on our assessment of the bill.
Okay. Ms. Hudson, did you have something? Yes.
Yes, first of all, I would just like to say, you know, I was not here last week, but I did read the minutes, so I will be going ahead and voting on consent. But also, I think it's important to, when you read the public transit needs portion of item 3.3, it talks about priorities, and NCTD plus microtransit expansion is one of NCTD's priorities. So we hope to have those connectors, and we just need money. So if we
Well, it's been 25 years, so
I haven't been here
when they
for
were
25.
promised.
But
Just be a little closer to your mic. It's hard to hear you.
sorry,
Thanks.
it is a new program, and it's been successful. So we hope to continue, and I believe that Oceanside is high on the list of next cities that are going to benefit from NCTD plus. So maybe we can have some meetings and talk about details.
Thanks for the input.
gonna
Okay.
help.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
That motion does pass with 7 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to item number 4. Again, just in the time, this This is a fairly straightforward item, so Don, anything you can do to keep the presentation to the point? And also, I'd like to just say that for this particular item, we will limit public comment to 1 minute just to keep the meeting moving along. So go ahead, Don.
All right, thank you. I'm going to skip the PowerPoint part, but I'm here today. You have a report in front of you regarding a bond issuance. It's a refunding for our 2016 bonds, and we're going to probably throw a few other series and maturities that make sense under Board Policy 36 to refund at this time. We do monitor these bonds to look for opportunities for savings. This transaction is currently estimated to achieve a little over $40 million in net present value savings. We're timing this to meet our April 1 call date. The 2016s were issued with a 10-year par call, so this is our opportunity. And again, when we have these opportunities, we look at all the series and all the maturities, and we work to align with board policy, maintaining our current credit ratings, doing a matched maturity, meaning we're not really changing the structure, issued on the senior lien. And the not to exceed that we're looking at right now is $400 million in bonds for this refunding. This is not a new money issuance. With that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Thanks. I'll go to public speakers, but just to be clear, and so current present value is $40 million in savings, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Since we didn't do the presentation.
And, and highlighting again that this is not issuance of new money. This is refinancing bonds that are coming that can be called and get a better deal for the agency.
Okay, can we have public speakers, please?
Thank you. We have one public speaker, Cesar Javier.
We understand the picture. We have SANDAG on mobility circulation, and we have independent governance, city, as an example, City of San Diego. How much is to chip in with SANDAG on this major mobility transportation projects? Is the city on the dot, on the obligatory mandate? If not, why? We have asked this question because we residents of the city of San Diego, as an example, need to know, is my city, our city, failing on its obligation to share
Thank
on
you
this
very much. Your
circulation
time has
mobility?
expired. That concludes the public comments. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have one more hand up. Blair Beekman, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. You saw my hand. I thought I did in a reasonable amount of time. Thank you. I just wanted to offer a quick comment that thank you for the clarifications from board persons in the presentation of this item. It helped a lot. Thank you.
Now that concludes the public comments.
Okay, great, thanks. And yeah, just the last clarification, since I asked you this before, just to be clear, I believe you stated that none of the bond terms are all matching. So we're not extending any debt any further, and we're just saving money, correct?
Yeah, we'll be maintaining our level debt service and doing a matched maturity refunding.
Matched maturity date, that's
Yes.
great, okay. Any other committee members have comments or questions?
Move approval, Chair.
Oh, thanks, but this is actually an information item, so I think we can just go ahead and move on to item number 5. And at this point in time, just so staff is ready, I will plan on going back to 2 minutes public speaking. We'll see how that goes, but with that, kick it off and hand it off to Ruby Morales. And Tim Garrett, sorry, Tim.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for including us in your meeting today. My name is Ruby Morales, and I'm an Associate Regional Planner, joined here with Tim Garrett, also an Associate Regional Planner, and we're here to provide an update on the coordinated plan from our last presentation on June 20th. So today, we'll provide a brief overview of the coordinated plan, findings from our outreach and research and present the proposed final goals and strategies. After conducting a public hearing and considering public comments, we'll ask that you approve the proposed final 2025 coordinated plan. There we go. So what is the coordinated plan and why do we have one? The coordinated plan fulfills several mandated federal, state, and regional requirements. Similar to the regional plan, the coordinated plan has to be completed on a cycle, and for the coordinated plan, that's every 4 years. The main purpose of the coordinated plan is to identify the transportation needs of older adults, people with disabilities, and people with limited means in the region, and then propose goals and strategies to address those needs. So, unlike the regional plan, the coordinated plan is not fiscally constrained. So that plan will include a mix of strategies that we can achieve with existing funding and existing resources and others that we'll need to identify additional funding for. Additionally, the coordinated plan directly shapes local funding decisions through the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. Through this program, SANDAG distributes between $4 and $5 million per year in total to eligible grantees, many of which are nonprofit organizations providing transportation to older adults, people with disabilities, and people with low incomes. The program has two funding sources: the federal Section 5310 program, which is a formula program based on population, and the Transnet Senior Mini Grant Program from our local sales tax. Applicants to the Specialized Transportation Grant Program must align their proposals with the program priorities that we identify in the coordinated plan to be eligible. So doing this prioritization through the coordinated plan means that we can continue to receive federal funding in the region. SANDAG has a robust outreach strategy for the projects that we complete, and the outreach for the coordinated plan was no different. For this year's outreach, we had focus groups, a scientific survey, and we also had presentations and a public hearing. There were 3 focus groups that were held, 1 for transportation providers and 2 for writers. Our survey effort lasted a month, and we received over 1,500 responses. And it focused on transportation behavior, and a summary of the outreach that was done and the findings can be found in the coordinated plan on chapters 3 and 4. We also made various presentations at different SANDAG working groups, such as the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. Additionally, we held different project development team meetings with stakeholders such as MTS and NCTD, in addition to local agencies. And our outreach really identified the following service gaps. So 1, that there is a need, an opportunity for collaboration between agencies, specifically when they're doing similar data collection efforts. 2, we also learned that respondents were not aware of the available transportation services. And 3, overall fixed route transit could better serve older adults and people with disabilities and people with low incomes. And 4, transportation services could be better coordinated and more efficient. We also learned that funding for transportation providers and coordinators is limited, and this includes our transit operators, MTS and NCTD, and other organizations that are not able to maintain or expand transit service without more funding. One of the agencies most responsible for coordination is the Consolidated Transportation Services Agency, or CTSA. The role of the CTSA was a really big part of this year's update to the coordinated plan. Historically, CTSAs were established under Assembly Bill 120, and the original legislation was intentionally vague so that each region could define responsibilities based on local priorities and needs. Overall, their role is to improve delivery and cost effectiveness in social service transportation, reduce service gaps, and streamline coordination between providers. FACT has been the CTSA for the San Diego region since the 2005 procurement and is paid about $190,000 per year using funding from the Transportation Development Act, Article 4.5. And we do recognize that this is not a lot of funding when compared to other CTSAs. To understand best practices, SANDAG reviewed CTSA structures established by 13 regional transportation agencies across the state, and we also interviewed 5 from 5 separate regions. And while responsibilities varied, there were several common practices that we identified, and those are listed here on the screen. So having clearly defined coordination activities, having appropriate performance measures, a limited term contract of 4 to 5 years, access to adequate and reliable funding, making referrals to effective and cost-efficient service providers, being in tune and responsive to local needs, and having coordination separate from providing transportation. So on this last practice, our research showed that in less populated areas, CTSAs provide transportation and coordination due to there being fewer providers, but in San Diego, there are many providers. So having a CTSA that does both coordination and transportation is unique and not necessarily conducive to optimizing either of those functions. So there's a lot of value in separating the coordination from the transportation. And so now that we've heard some background on the outreach and research, I'll turn it over to Tim to summarize our goals and go over strategies and implementation.
Thank you, Ruby. So Ruby mentioned in our outreach and analysis, we had 5 service gaps. So we have those included here on the table on the left side of the screen. So she's already mentioned those. But what we've done is we've developed 5 goals on the right side of the table that each one directly addresses one of the service gaps that we had identified. So the first goal is about improving data collection and analysis among public agencies so that we can be more efficient and comprehensive in assessing the needs of our target population, which is older adults, people with disabilities, and people with low incomes. The second goal is about increasing awareness of transportation services so that people understand what options are available to them. The third goal is to have better coordination among transportation providers to reduce redundancy and gaps. The fourth goal is to make transportation overall more convenient, accessible, safe, and comfortable, and in particular, fixed route transit. And the fifth goal is to have financial and operational stability so that transportation providers and coordinators can continue to operate with stability. So each goal contains many strategies for SANDAG and our partner agencies to help implement. And so there are many pathways through which we hope to implement the plan. As Ruby mentioned at the beginning, unlike the regional plan, the coordinated plan is not fiscally constrained. Some strategies can be achieved with existing resources, but others will require new or additional funding. We have identified all of the strategies that are contingent on additional funding in the plan. So you can see this whole list. It's included in attachment 2 to today's staff report for this item and explained in much more detail in chapter 5 of the coordinated plan document. So who are the agencies involved in implementation? SANDAG's role continues to be convening and monitoring the transportation providers, providing funding for specialized transportation, and managing the CTSA through a contract that defines its responsibilities. The CTSA is expected to coordinate available services, provide information and conduct outreach, and provide ride referrals to transportation providers. MTS and NCTD are expected to continue operating fixed route transit like buses and trains, as well as paratransit, which is supplemental service for people whose disabilities prevent them from using fixed route transit. We then have interagency strategies, and these are ones that that will require collaboration among multiple agencies to implement and things that we hope to achieve through ongoing coordination through the STAC, Social Services Transportation Advisory Council, and other similar forums. And finally, we have listed here specialized transportation providers. As Ruby mentioned, many of these are nonprofit organizations that provide transportation, and SANDAG can influence the activities of these organizations through the funding that we make available through the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. So I mentioned there's a whole bunch of strategies. We've identified several here that are kind of the primary ones that we wanted to identify. The first is to improve coordination and collaboration among providers. SANDAG would identify opportunities to do this, but would need support from multiple agencies to implement, as you would expect. The second is to increase public awareness of transportation service options by providing consistent and reliable information in rider guides. and other transportation resources. And we expect that the CTSA would help prepare this as well as provide and disseminate the information to riders in the region. The third is to enhance the role of the CTSA through a new contract that improves coordination and information sharing, includes better performance measures for accountability, and provides increased funding to match this increased scope of work that we anticipate. This would be done through a new competitive procurement, which is something that SANDAG has not done in 20 years. And we anticipate that there will be additional funding included from the Section 5310 program. As Ruben mentioned, this is one of the sources for the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. So while this funding might be moved to the CTSA contract, it would enhance the CTSA's role in coordinating and improving the efficiency of transportation providers. The fourth is to explore partnerships with foundations and other philanthropic organizations to increase funding for specialized transportation. We see this as an opportunity, but we would need to begin by conducting a request for information from organizations to help us better understand what the opportunities are for this new approach. And fifth is to maintain transit service levels, improve access to transit, and reduce barriers to using fixed route transit. Fixed route is one of the most cost-effective ways to improve the mobility of older adults, people with disabilities, and people with low incomes, as we heard about from our outreach doing the survey and the focus groups. But we recognize that budget deficits among partner agencies will make this challenging to achieve, both maintaining and expanding service. We've included the strategy here to underscore how important these services are to the populations. Federal transit law requires that the coordinated plan identify funding priorities. We know that there's not enough funding to go around, so the priorities we've identified here for the Specialized Transportation Grant Program are activities that we enable and we encourage with funding through the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. Though SANDAG and its partner agencies may not implement these directly, this is the ones that we would be encouraging through the applications. So applicants would need to explain how their proposed projects meet one or more of the following priorities. Offer in-person and online travel trainings, particularly so that people are encouraged to use this cost-effective and convenient transportation options like fixed route transit. Provide specialized transportation, prioritizing cost-effective and non-redundant services. Provide paratransit equivalent service across the MTS and NCTD service area boundary without requiring rider transfers, coordinating with the CTSA as needed. Noting that this one is not a mandate for MTS and NCT to do this. We're just making this an option for applicants to the program to do this. And the fourth priority that we have listed here would be in effect if we're able to grow the pot of available funding for the program through additional means like the philanthropic organizations like I mentioned. And that would be to expand door-to-door and door-through-door service availability, which are some of the more service-intensive transportation service options. And of course, staff will return in future meetings of the Transportation Committee as we're preparing future calls for projects and otherwise discussing the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. So on November 21st, SANDAG published the coordinated plan online for public comment. And to date, we've received 2 comments. One comment came from a social service transportation provider asking that we make a minor clarification to the description of their services in the plan. And another one came from a partner agency asking us to clarify how we describe SANDAG's project selection process for Section 5310 funding. Both of these requested changes are minor, and we would plan to make those edits in the final version of the document after today's meeting, but they wouldn't substantially change what's included in the plan. So today the Transportation Committee is asked to conduct a public hearing on the proposed final 2025 coordinated plan, and after considering public comments, adopt resolution number 2026-06, approving the proposed final 2025 coordinated plan in substantially the same form as available online. We would make minor edits, like I mentioned on the last slide, and to address any other direction that we received today. If approved, the plan will be submitted to Caltrans and the United States Department of Transportation. And that concludes our presentation, and Ruby and I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Francesca, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We have 2 public comments, Cesar Javier, and Cesar will be followed by Christian Hernandez.
We learn fast by repetition. Value analysis. This is the way to gaining trust from the most valuable agency, the public. Please listen, Councilor Rivera, because we have a stake on this great region, great city, District 9. Building trust. Coordination to magnet philanthropist. extra money from others who are benevolent. That's what it means. Because we know, we trust the governance. So we give in, even our soul. Mr. Rivera, as member of the board here and vice chair, please listen to us. We deserve to be respected. We deserve to be justly taken care of. What's going on? Victims of the pollution, victims of criminality, victims of those people who, by SANDAG, is trying to mobilize, to move in a hope that there will be progress in their health, in their safety, in their future. That's mobility, that's circulation. Coordination is only part of the algorithm in management. Do we have supervision, Councilor Rivera, sir? And the staff whom you brought here? Is there control? We were taught and we're acquainted with management, administration. I do not know what's the difference. Administration says, hey, this is the money, you spend that to zero. But what is the city doing? They invest money for money and you could only withdraw 35% for human sake. Thank you, Sanda.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Christian Hernandez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Christian Hernandez, Operations Manager for FACT. I'm here to speak on behalf of Arun Prem, our Executive Director. I commend SANDAG staff for calling attention to FACT as the CTSA for San Diego County. CTSAs are generally not well known and their impact is often not understood. Therefore, FACT supports outcome-based CTSA performance indicators. I appreciate the rationale for competitive CTSA selection from SANDAG's perspective. I believe a cautious approach is needed to ensure continuity of service due to the lack of any alternatives to FACT service, particularly wheelchair accessible transportation, seamless countywide travel, on-demand service, as well as special needs transportation in rural and suburban San Diego. The assessment of CTSA funding is limited, a patchwork, and unreliable. Is accurate. I support SANDAG's desire to align funding structure with the need and desire of outcome. The premise of an agency providing referrals and rights conflict is not sustained, and it contradicts the intent of the CTSA legislation, which aims to optimize outcomes and consolidate coordination. I have managed CTSA for programs in San Diego and LA County for 29 years. And I look forward to supporting SANDAG efforts in developing a scope of CTSA service that meets the county. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Orso, for the words of our 20th anniversary.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Do I have any committee comments or questions? Sorry, Mayor Sanchez, did you put up?
I was going to move staff's recommendation.
Okay. Do we have?
If this is.
Mayor moved by Sanchez.
If we only have these speakers for the public hearing. Yeah.
Sounds like that was all the speakers. Do I have a second? Second by.
And just one other comment, the resolution has the time as 9 a.m. It should be 1 p.m., right?
I'm guessing.
I was here at 9 a.m. Well, this is my second trip down here, so I thought that was kind of cute.
Too, for the audit committee. But yes, okay, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out. I do think this is I appreciate the deliberative approach. We need to continue with the deliberative approach. It's a very notable action that we're taking, but I also agree with Mauro. It's been 20 years, and so it seems like it's time to take another look and see if we can more align ourselves with more standard types approaches. But with that, go ahead and call for the vote if there are no other comments. Oops. Guess I should also close the public hearing. Keep working it. Did we not capture the first round of voting? Okay, so let's, folks, go ahead and vote again, please.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Transnet Smart Thing Growth Incentive Program, Cycle 6 recommendations. And I think, Mario, did you want to start off with this one?
Yeah. A couple of things. The Smart Growth Incentive Program grants start getting set up about a year ago or more than a year ago. So just as information, the capacity of it or the amount that was going to be awarded was based on the funding that was available at that time. But in last October, we found some errors on our tables that were being used to grade the Smart Growth Incentive Program grants. And that forced us to reevaluate the entire process. And first of all, my deepest apologies, and we take full responsibility of that. But we have identified several lessons learned, and we're changing the process, and we're also changing our organizational structure. Goldie is going to walk us through the evaluation process, the errors, the corrections that were identified. And the planning and climate action grants before you today weren't really affected during that grading process. The outcome was the same. While this reevaluation did not impact those grants, it did impact the project scores on the capital programs. For next steps for the capital programs, and based on how the board has now restructured some of the PACs, we're going to go back to the executive committee and ask them for their advice of how to proceed. And I say this because, like I opened up, it was set up when the funding available was X, and now it's X plus Y, let's call it like that, so that we're going to present that there is an additional funding capacity if the exec committee wants to look into adding some of those additional funds and making it whole, or what strategies do they want to provide us, and we'll come with a menu. So early next year, we'll be coming with the capital programs. Now, also, ITALK gave specific feedback in September regarding the geographic distribution criteria on one of the planning projects that they deem ineligible. So Goldie is also going to be talking about that and asking for your comments and advice on that. As the idea is, we want to move forward with the awardees and recommending awards to the board of directors on the planning and the smart growth ones. So take it over, Goldie.
Thank you so much, Mario. Good afternoon, Chair Zito and members of the Transportation Committee. I hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving with your loved ones. My name is Goldie Herbon, and I'm the Program Manager for the Smart Growth Incentive Program. And today we're here to ask for a Cycle 6 funding recommendation, and the Transportation Committee is asked to review the recommended projects and consider a recommendation to the Board of Directors. For a quick background on the Smart Growth Incentive Program, or SGIP for short, this is a competitive grant program that's solely funded by the Transnet Extension Ordinance. SANDAG has implemented 5 cycles to date, and we've awarded just under $60 million. We've awarded over 70 projects who've been able to also leverage an additional $47 million in other funding. On this slide, you can see a couple examples of our smart growth investments at work for projects all the way from Chula Vista to San Marcos, Lemon Grove, and the city of San Diego. But today we're here to talk about the Cycle 6 call for projects. And the 6th cycle originally proposed to release $45 million. In the pie chart on the left, you can see the 3 project categories that were recommended for funding and their allocation amounts. So planning projects our category with a $12 million allocation, climate action planning projects for $3 million, and the remaining $30 million going to capital or construction projects. The table on the right-hand side of this, the table on the right-hand side indicate the project categories and the minimum and maximum award amounts for each project category. And there's a performance period allocation for each project category as required by board policy. So being animated on the slide is a cycle 6 call for projects timeline. Last year in December, we got board approval to release the cycle 6 call for projects. The call for projects was released in January of this year, which initiated a 90-day application window. In that application window, we held an applicant webinar mid-January, and we held 11 one-on-one jurisdictional meetings to talk about prospective projects. The application window closed on April 11th of this year. We received 46 applications from 16 different local jurisdictions. And between the months of April and August of this year, we performed our evaluations for all of the projects. And on September 10th, we went to the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, or ITAC, for a funding recommendation. So now this section will cover the eligibility and evaluation process for cycle 6 that Mario was talking about. So as part of the evaluation between April and August of this year, SANDAG staff first screened applications for minimum eligibility requirements and responsiveness. And then all responsive applications were then given to their respective evaluation panelists. Now, each evaluator scores applications based on qualitative scoring criteria, while SANDAG staff gives scores on quantitative criteria. So qualitative scoring uses discretion, while quantitative scoring, which SANDAG staff does, uses a data point or a specific metric to assign a score. So to determine a final project score, we take all the evaluators' scores, average them, and then you add the quantitative score to arrive at a final project score. Then projects are put in order from highest to lowest, and awards are recommended from highest to lowest using geographic distribution until all funding available for each project category is exhausted. So for this call for projects, we did ask the ITAC to review one project's eligibility, a planning project, on September 10th, and I'll talk about it on an upcoming slide. So at that September 10th ITAC meeting, we brought the cycle 6 funding recommendation for all 3 project categories. But ITAC members gave notable feedback on 2 major topic areas that I want to talk about right now. Again, Mario talked about this briefly. The first one was geographic distribution. So committee members discussed utilizing geographic distribution and questioned whether this approach aligns with the Transnet ordinance, because the ordinance mandates that grants be awarded on a competitive basis. So SANDAG's general counsel at that ITAC meeting clarified that while the ordinance does require a competitive process, the SANDAG board, with a recommendation from ITAC and PACS, defines the parameters of that competitive process. So as a reminder, grant staff took the topic of geographic distribution to working groups as well as ITACs and PACS throughout all of calendar year 2024 when we were developing the call for projects. And if you want to read more about geographic distribution, you can reference attachment 1, and I also talk about the discussion that was held at ITAC on September 10th. So this slide is simply to illustrate how geographic distribution works. So up here you have 8 hypothetical projects submitted by 8 hypothetical cities with project scores, and they're placed in descending score order. These red boxes indicate the second highest scored projects for City A and City B. These projects in the red boxes are skipped over because City A and City B already got funded for their highest scored project. And now in this hypothetical scenario, there's $500 available, so the funding is exhausted. Therefore, you can't go back up to the top of the list and consider funding the projects that were skipped. That's how geographic distribution works. So now the second thing that ITAC talked about was the eligibility of one planning project, and this was the City of Escondido's Affordable Housing Trust Fund project. This project aims to deliver affordable housing within central Escondido. While this project is a planning project and intends to increase housing through a funding tool or a funding mechanism, this project lacked a nexus to transportation improvements. So out of an abundance of caution, staff provided this application to the evaluators while giving the city of Escondido an opportunity to update their scope to include a transportation nexus. Ultimately, Escondido didn't update their scope to include a nexus, but the project did score the minimum amount of points eligible to receive funding. So we took it to ITALK, and while the committee members recognized the project's merits and its location within a transit area, they ultimately recommended to the board that the project be ineligible because they believed that it did not align with the transit ordinance's language that states that SCIP would fund projects that have transportation-related infrastructure improvements. So now TC here today is asked to consider ITALK's recommendation regarding Escondido's eligibility and to provide feedback on whether this project should be moved forward to the board. So after that ITALK meeting in September, we were slated to take the SCIP Cycle 6 project recommendations to the Regional Planning Committee on October 3rd. And like Mario mentioned, we identified a scoring discrepancy. This required us to pull the item, and since then, staff have reevaluated all projects submitted and identified process improvements. On the next couple of slides, I'll talk about the reevaluation and the process improvements identified. So staff reevaluated all quantitative scores for all 45 applications for scoring, and that included a review of project proximity mapping, Board Policy 33 responses, the smart growth activities selected for each project, and reported matching funds. As a result of the reevaluation, the following findings were made. First, an Excel scoring error occurred due to mistakenly deleting a point for matching funds that exceeded 20% of the overall project cost. And the second finding was related to Board Policy 33. As a reminder, if you don't have this memorized, Board Policy 33 establishes guidelines for incentivizing local participation in achieving regional housing goals. So as part of the application, applicants are required to submit responses to determine how well these jurisdictions implement housing policies. And so what we identified were that 7 jurisdictions did not respond consistently across their applications on how well they respond to Board Policy 33. Despite these inconsistencies, though, no application scored changed for any Board Policy 33 scores. The third finding is on manual input errors. So manual input errors were found for project location. So in the mapping portion of the application. So 5 errors were found in mapping criteria inputs, which reduced the scores for 5 capital projects. Basically, yeses were selected for projects whose projects were not located or not within the buffer of a transit priority area, or they weren't located in a safety focus network. So it should have been a no, but it was accidentally selected as a yes. And lastly, I want to point out that process improvements were found throughout the entire process of my reevaluation, and they were discussed at a peer review panel, which I'll discuss briefly next. So we held a peer review panel internally on October 22nd. There were 10 SANDAG staffers there across all departments. And overall, the feedback was that SANDAG grant staff and SANDAG data science staff should work together to incorporate ways to better automate the system for grants application and evaluation processes before the next cycle. This is to reduce the need for so much manual data compilation and data transfer. And the hope is really for greater efficiency and accuracy. And a total of 12 corrective actions were a result of the peer review panel, and they kind of fall within these 3 categories on this list here. But a couple of specific proposed solutions I want to point out are that we'll use technology to handle data more automatically. We will lock the spreadsheets after being checked for accuracy or QA/QC. We will streamline duplicative data requests to avoid inconsistent reporting from prospective applicants. And lastly, we will work with our general counsel to establish internal procedures for the internal eligibility determination to avoid going to ITALK and PACS for an eligibility review. So While we've identified these process improvements, some that we've implemented already, but mainly for future rounds of competitive funding, we are moving forward with Smart Growth Cycle 6 recommendations for planning and climate action planning projects, because again, there was no change to the original recommendation as a result of the reevaluation. So the capital project recommendation will be going to the executive committee, as Mario said, for further discussion, because that category experienced greater fluctuation when we have reevaluated the projects. So once we get direction from the executive committee, we'll go back to the ITALC and policy advisory committees as needed and culminate with a recommendation from the board next year. So again, we're asking TC to make a recommendation for 2 of the 3 categories here, capital or climate action planning and planning. So I'm going to move on to the recommended projects. So starting with the planning category, there are 15 planning projects recommended for funding. They are from 10 local jurisdictions. For more information about these projects, like their project matches, their project descriptions, things of that nature, each project score, specific scores, please reference attachment 2. All of that data is there. The 15 projects requested $9.1 million. So if you recall, there was $12 million allocated to this category. So there's a surplus of about $2.8 million. That surplus will be moved over to the capital category because that was heavily oversubscribed. And then you can see Escondido's project is an asterisk here because we would like your discussion here on whether this project should be recommended to the board. So ITALC made the recommendation on September 10th. We would like to hear from you all about your thoughts on their eligibility, and we'll bring both recommendations to the board next week. Here is a map of the planning project locations that are recommended for funding. There's some geographic diversity here, as you can see. I just want to spotlight a couple of projects for you so you can see what types of projects will be implemented if awarded. The first one is the City of Vista's Active Transportation Plan. The ATP will include a Safe Routes to Schools element, and it'll be developed through community collaboration and proposes to create safe, connected, and accessible systems, transportation systems for all ages and abilities. And then moving down further south to the city of Lemon Grove, we have the Massachusetts Avenue Safe Routes to Transit Connectivity Plan. This plan will revitalize the area surrounding Massachusetts Avenue trolley stop and San Altos Elementary School by rezoning for mixed use and high density housing near transit. And the project will improve first and last mile connections, creating safer, more pedestrian friendly streets. Now, the second category is climate action planning projects. There were 7 applicants received, 7 are recommended for award. I just want to note one project led by the city of Solana Beach is a regional project. It's a regional greenhouse gas inventory, includes 7 project partners. This category was also undersubscribed. So the 7 applicants requested just under $2 million. So that $1 million surplus will also be moved over to the capital category. And now for the climate action planning project map, 14 different jurisdictions will be receiving climate action planning grant dollars from SGIP Cycle 6, 13 cities in the county of San Diego. Their jurisdictions are shaded in the green here. For next steps, I'll be taking the planning and climate action planning projects to the board of directors next week on December 12th. Pending board approval, the projects will be programmed into the RTIP and I'll start executing grant agreements. And we anticipate notices to proceed or NTPs in the early spring of next year. And once NTPs are issued, planning and climate action plan projects have 36 months or 3 years to be completed. And again, that capital project category will be going to the executive committee separately for further discussion and direction. If you would like more historical information on the SGIP program, you can visit sandag.org/SGIP, or you can email me directly at grantsdistribution@sandag.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
Thank you, we do. First will be Cesar Javier, followed by Blair Beekman.
Thank you, SANDAG. We are from the city of San Diego. We have all the leverage because look at the geographic political territory. We occupy all wealth-getting sites. The toll, international toll, 2 gateways north-south, by golly, that is District 8. If you ever give that money, give it to the district councilor Moreno, not to the city, because it will go to a ghost poll and it will be a ghost project as what is going right now. We have the reason to believe that there is scourging money, predatory kind of governance. We are paying so much in tax. Look at the property tax increase in our bill, 535. We have to pay in advance trust fee as metaphorically compared to this item now. Pardon me, Mr. Chair. I know you're looking at me. Focus on transportation. We need more incentive money for the victim or the city property, which is District 8, to sustain its cleaning, not the climate change as to what is placed there. That is a ghost subject. To clean up Tijuana River Valley, District 8. Sirs, ma'am, that's our essence of coming here because we wanted that money for the right usage. That's in the book. It's in our constitution. Justice. That's a crisis and we have to solve it. Thank you, Sandag. We are learning.
I think our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the previous public comment. I'm interested how my public comment is directed towards I've been trying to address that the future of automatic vehicles has been arriving to San Diego, and boy, in San Francisco, I'm living in North Beach, and it is just the hub center. I mean, every third car is an automatic vehicle driving by, it feels like, and a lot of taxi service up here already. This sort of item that you talked about here today, and all of its funding, the Safe City Future things, and all of the things within it, this seems the place that the future of funding for, if it's not already happening, would be for the future of the automatic vehicle use. And I've made it a big point that I hope that we can talk about the technology involved in creating automatic vehicle use in San Diego. And this would be the item to discuss that, and that we don't just simply blanketly approve of the technology and the funding dollars, within these items for this agenda item, but that we take the time to describe the technology and what it entails, what it involves. It was mentioned that you're going to be practicing new efficient services with your tech needs and use, and I wanted to point out that as much as we rely and count on tech, we have to be very cautious in how we say that to each other, and that it is of help. But we just have to be cautious in those explanations with each other and mindful. I hope that can be a good lesson, remembering how to work best. A healthy degree of skepticism is also important, and that's how we build our future. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments on this item.
Thank you, Francesca. Do any committee members have questions or comments on this topic? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Weissman.
Yeah, I have a question about the geographic screening criteria, because you mentioned that that you're looking to screen out if an applicant already got approved for another project. I just want to understand that, because it seems like it's not necessarily making geographic diversity so much as like ensuring distribution across applicants. For instance, you might have, like, if the county of San Diego only applied, for a couple of projects, they could get screened out even though their geographic footprint is longer, and you could have a cluster of incorporated cities in one urban area that they look diverse because there's multiple jurisdictions, but they're actually in a close geographic proximity.
Thanks for the question, Danielle. So I think to lay out the reason why geographic distribution was brought up well before 2024 was the concern of concentrating grant monies to a single applicant. So having someone come in and apply for 8 projects and then get 7 other 8 projects funded. So it's more of a chance for everyone who scores at least the minimum amount of points to have a shot at getting funding, not necessarily actual geographic. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any, yes, Mayor Sanchez.
I have a question. When will the capital projects be brought for review? Because there was only the climate and the planning.
We're going to be going to executive committee to get direction from them in January. So probably coming back to the ITAC and PAC if necessary, February, March timeframe.
Okay, thank you. So there's the action recommended is action is to recommend to the board. So I'm going to go ahead and move approval. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want direction regarding Escondido?
Yeah, I was, if we, I'll leave the motion standing, but as it stands, do we have any input on what the thoughts are around making a recommendation for Escondido as well?
It would have been nice to hear from Escondido, give opportunity. So in the absence of that, I would have a very difficult time making comments. Perhaps by the time it gets to the board, then there might be some kind of
So
comment from the city.
Clarity for staff. I mean, Escondido was notified of this and they had opportunity to have staff here to comment on this, correct?
And they were found not to be qualified, yet they were included so that there would be potentially 2 recommendations on this, right?
I guess staff, it's a better question for staff to answer.
What happens was
they were given the opportunity to amend their application.
There was a moment, there was a period of time that they were asked to add a transportation nexus. They elected not to, no response. So that the team just moved on. They got a decent score, but it was highlighted at iTalk that nexus wasn't there. Am I putting it in the right context, Goldie?
Correct. So the cities of Escondido's project, it's an affordable housing project. It doesn't have a transportation improvement nexus in the application. SKIP does call for increasing transportation and housing choices, but if you read the language in the ordinance, it says Transnet Smart Growth funds transportation-related infrastructure improvements. Therefore, ITalk deemed it ineligible. Now, if you recommend this package, it includes ITalk. So if you want to take Escondido out, you have to amend the action to take Escondido's project out.
Yeah, and so just to be clear on that, I believe the motion that's on the floor was staff recommendation. So that would mean we would be including ITalk's recommendation to not allow Escondido to move forward. But that's ultimately the board's decision on that, but that would be Transportation Committee recommendations. Is that fine with the motion maker?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I just want to say that it is $315,000.
Correct.
It's not
And
3 million.
Supervisor Anderson, were you the second? Who's second? Who's second? Okay, keep it in place. Yeah.
So, and I want to confirm something. So my understanding is that we were putting forward the recommendations clean, not with ITalk's changes.
You're
so that's
correct,
a very
Betsy.
important thing.
You are correct, Betsy.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Okay.
So
knowing
now,
that.
That's different then. So right now.
So what the motion maker did was approve, or excuse me, make a motion to recommend to the board the recommendation for the Smart Growth Incentive Program, inclusive of Escondido.
Okay, so
if there's a desire to do something different, then
okay, so the staff recommendation wasn't to approve what ITalk did. It was just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that clarification, thanks for doing that. Betsy, where was the pleasure of the committee? Do we want to leave the motion stand or?
The recommendation from staff is to include Escondido, is that correct? and let the board decide that.
I don't,
let me clarify this. I think the spirit the staff had, and I include myself in staff, is to have come and present exactly the same iTalk saw, what they saw, right? The staff have put in, they said, hey, they did meet the grading criteria, but the eligibility, they did not. There was a discussion within iTalk, and they said, yeah, it doesn't meet the nexus for transportation. We're not recommending it to go through. But we, in the spirit of fairness, we are bringing the same thing that iTalk saw. We're bringing the same comments, and we're letting you decide to recommend either to go with what iTalk recommended or send the full package.
so for our clarity though, what went to iTalk? A recommendation to include Escondido, or this is the outcome of the ranking and then you guys decide? Which one was?
The recommendation to include Escondido
Okay.
with a review of the eligibility of their application.
Okay, so that's the same. So staff is asking us to decide whether or not we believe the eligibility is correct, but their recommendation is otherwise they meet the other grant requirements as is. So whereas iTalk decided not to. So with that, what is the pleasure of the committee at this point? Mayor Sanchez, would you like to?
I am hearing that the recommendation from staff was to include Escondido. Is that correct?
That was the recommendation from staff, is what staff said, but with the qualification that they didn't know if it actually met they were asking the committee's opinion of whether it met the criteria as outlined in the iTalk, the Transnet ordinance. So
I guess what I'm recommending is that it be included at this point to give Escondido some additional time to submit the information. And if by the board meeting, they don't, then pleasure of the board. If they don't feel that they want to say anything more, then I guess the board is free to take it out.
Yeah, let me ask we are just making a recommendation again, correct?
To the board.
So to the board, yes. So would you restate the motion saying that as it stands, we would recommend that we don't fund Escondido, but then if by the time it gets to the board, they provide a transportation component that we would be willing to recommend? Is that what sound appropriate? Sorry if I'm making.
That's another way of saying it.
Yes, right.
Putting it differently. You know, instead of assuming they would, unless they do not submit additional connectivity. Here it would be.
Right now, we don't have it in front of us. So right now I would stipulate we have to suggest we pull it out because it's not in front of us, right?
Right.
It's not in front of us. If it comes in front of the board, they can always change that decision, correct?
All right, so I'm fine with the way the chair is making the motion.
So for just cleanliness, so for cleanliness, because there's a motion and a second, should I just perhaps then make a substitute motion that says that we would recommend moving this forward to the board, but without including Escondido due to the lack of a transportation component? Does that make sense?
You could do that as a friendly amendment as opposed to a substitute motion. We could do it by unanimous consent. If there's any objection to that, it can be stated, but.
Do we have unanimous? Does anybody object to that amendment? Okay, so is that a friendly amendment to the motion maker saying that?
That is fine. Okay. As long as it's including the opportunity for Escondido to submit. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second. Okay. With that, I call for the vote.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move on to item number 7, which is the transit ridership dashboard. Connor, and You can have a real presentation this time. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Good afternoon, everybody. The TC coordinator, Brian Lane, said we were doing so good on time that I get 2 hours to talk to you all today. So get ready. No, I'm just kidding. So today I'm here to present the transit ridership dashboard, and I'll be going over a little bit of history, some of its production, and then give you a couple of screenshots here to show you what it looks like. This, in big picture, is a tool that is going to be available to the public. And hopefully it lets decision makers and anybody who has a curiosity about kind of what transit ridership in our region looks like, gives them some numbers to be able to take a look at exactly what some of the context is behind certain features of our transit system. So this transit ridership dashboard is a tool that was built on a Esri experience builder. And basically what that means is that it's a interactive dashboard. It allows users to navigate through different data points in a seamless manner, and everything will react to basically custom reports that you're able to generate. This dashboard is built on data called automated passenger counters. We call that APC for short. I may slip up and just call it APC, but basically what it is, it's a sensor at the doors of the transit vehicles, which will monitor where and when people get on and off a transit vehicle. So basically, if someone gets on the bus, it'll track them getting on at a certain point, and then when someone gets off, it'll track them when they get off. The data is all anonymous. We don't know anything about individual riders. So this is basically just information about where the volume of people are moving, and some features about kind of time of day and when that is. This is technology that is managed and owned by MTS and NCTD. And I'll pause there to say that this was a collaborative effort between both transit operators, and a huge thank you to Caltrans, who is a major funder of this project as well. We were able to actually get a Caltrans planning grant for this, and this helped not only completely renovate our passenger counting program, which I'll get into here in a little bit, but it really made all of this come to life. All of those parties were present at all of our project meetings, and they were also integral to the success of this. So big thank you to everybody for that. So I mentioned SANDAG's passenger counting program. That is what we call basically our central clearinghouse for transit data. This is our automated passenger count data, which basically gives you an idea from one perspective of what transit ridership is. I mentioned earlier what it is. What it isn't is a measure of who people are. We have other ways to collect that type of data, whether that be through fare box data, such as kind of the pass that someone uses to get on a vehicle, or even demographic information about where people are going or coming from. We get that information from surveys. So this is kind of a snapshot of ridership data. And so this isn't meant to replace any other existing data points. MTS and NCTD both report their own data to FTA. And so this isn't meant to replace any of that. This is meant to be supplemental and complement all of that. And so our passenger counting program serves as kind of the central clearinghouse for both of those transit agencies' APC data. I mentioned it's unique in that it measures where people are getting on and off. That's actually something that you can't get from fare box data. So while we don't know really a whole lot about the people who are riding at these different points in time or on these services, what we do know is where they're getting off. And what that does is it allows us to measure things like how long someone's going to be on a vehicle for, what the load is on a given vehicle, and even kind of where we're seeing kind of the busiest sections on a certain transit route. And so that's a little bit about kind of what the data is itself. I mentioned this is a multi-agency effort, and really the goal of this project was kind of twofold. One, I mentioned earlier, was to completely renovate our passenger counting program, because kind of as our agency and regional needs have shifted, our old program wasn't really flexible enough to be able to support those needs. And so we needed to transition to a newer one. And then the other part was really in the spirit of transportation. We wanted to make, or transparency, I should say. We wanted to make sure that everybody had kind of, this was getting access to all the same data. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to kind of democratize access to this, because you're able to request this information from us now. Now you can kind of cut out the middleman, if you will, and be able to see this on a regular basis. So this dashboard, as I mentioned, is going to be something that is dynamic and kind of constantly evolving. The goal is that this is going to be updated on a monthly basis. We're going to aim to have this updated by the 20th of each month. And so that'll give you the previous month's data. So December 20th, give or take, we'll be expecting to have the November data updated. So a little bit of a timeline here. This project began in earnest in 2022 when we were awarded the Caltrans Planning Grant to help fund this project. That's when we were awarded the funds, and then we began the solicitation process to procure a new vendor for our passenger count program. And that was awarded to a combination of UTA, Urban Transportation Associates, and ESRI. They together were kind of working on both the front and the back end of each piece of this project here. So that occurred in October of 2023. And ever since then, we've been working on building this thing. So the first step was really to produce reliable estimates. And so that was quite labor intensive. And so it was many hours spent by staff at MTS, NCTD, Caltrans, and here at SANDAG to make sure that we were producing estimates that were comparable to the previous ones, but also making sure that the nuances and the unique features of our transit system were being reflected in the data that we were producing. So we wanted to make sure that the data that we were putting out went through a very rigorous cleaning procedure. And so we spent quite a bit of time since the onset of this project making sure that we got reliable estimates. And that really began in the kind of the fall of 2023. And in tandem, we also started a new path, which was actually to start scoping out what this project's going to look like. So we ended up taking this in beginning in the spring of 2024 to a couple of working groups, as well as soliciting feedback from all the parties on this project, MTS and NCTD, and as well as Caltrans, and figuring out kind of who are the users? Who do we envision benefiting from this? We wanted to envision kind of all those range of potential users, and we kind of bucketed those into really two groups. This is the casual consumer, maybe someone who doesn't really have a real need or real experience working with data, but they just kind of want to get a feel for how many people are riding a given route, or oh, I noticed there's a lot of people at a bus stop. How many people are waiting there on an average day? So we want to be able to provide a high level view for casual consumers while also making this helpful enough to people who we call more of a power consumer or a power user who has more of a research focus or has a need for getting a little bit more in the weeds. We wanted to make it useful for them as well. And so we started soliciting feedback from all kinds of people being, hey, what kind of information would be beneficial to you? And we wanted to make sure that we were able to do as much as we can without kind of doing too much. So we went through a few rounds of user testing. We solicited a lot of feedback from working groups, from potential users. We made prototypes. We kind of broke those down. We rebuilt them. And over the course of the next year and a half or so, we ended up finally getting to the point where we were conducting final user testing. And then this month, we actually put it out. So it was a long process, and we are hopeful that this new tool will find many happy users. So the next section that I have here is the transit ridership in screenshots. I'll preface by saying that if you have any questions, you're also welcome to go to www.sandag.org/transit ridership to view the dashboard. And then I believe there's also a link in the agenda as well to it. So starting off, this is the first thing that you see when you jump into the dashboard. This is the landing page. I mentioned earlier that we wanted to make this useful for both people who are kind of casual consumers and then also people who are more research heavy. And so the way that we designed the dashboard is a focus on the fewer clicks, the more high level, the more clicks, the more in the weeds that you get with this. And so just starting off here, I'll kind of highlight a few important pieces to this dashboard's layout. You'll notice on the left, we've got a couple of filters that you're able to kind of play with and select different features of our transit system, such as if you wanted to look at agency-wide, if you wanted to look at by mode or route, you can make those selections in the filters. We have a mapping component here. This is just for reference, just to give users an idea of where a given route is in case they weren't aware. We've got a top 10 routes list by average weekday boardings. And then we've got a total boardings per month chart right here. So this is the first thing you see when you hop into this website. You also notice a couple of toggle buttons right on the top here. We noticed that we've got a route and a stops page. That's because we wanted to be able to report on all of the things that we were getting requested. So really some of the requirements for this dashboard that ended up came about based on how much data that we were being requested for and what type of data. And a lot of times that was stop level data as well. And because of some of the nuances between route level data and stop level data, we felt that it would be useful to have the two different pages here. There's also a help button right in the upper right-hand corner that I'll get into in a little bit. But moving on here, I'll kind of start talking about some of the filters. I mentioned earlier that you could filter by agency. You can also filter by mode. When you click on a filter, this is what you see. You'll see a checkbox or you'll see a radio button. Basically, it just indicates whether you're allowed to select multiple at a time or if you're only able to select one. And then what you'll do is when you click on any of those, you'll see that the figures on the right side of the screen, those will update as you navigate through the dashboard. We've got a route stops section here. So if we were to go back a couple of slides, you'll notice on the bottom in the center here, we've got general stats and then route stats below. If you click on that route stats, the image on the right that says total boardings per month will change to this figure here. And what this is a breakdown by time of day showing you the 3 different metrics that are kind of the backbone of what's inside of this dashboard. You've got boardings, you've got passenger miles, and you've got load factor. Those are really the 3 main ingredients, if you will, in the data that we're reporting here. We also have things like average trip length, average load, and max load in here as well. But really what you're able to, kind of the utility here that you're able to see is based on a service day here starting at 2 a.m. and ending in the next day, in the next hour of 2 a.m. the next day. You're able to see over the course of that day how ridership is changing. And so this is actually important because on certain routes or on certain services, you'll notice that the demographic of people who are riding those may leave at different times of day. And so this is a good way to build some context into what the characteristics of those routes actually look like. Flipping over to the stops page, if you were to hit the toggle in the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice that this transitions to a stops dashboard, which for all intents and purposes looks basically the same as the route level dashboard. But the uniqueness of this page and the reason why we felt it was important is that you're actually able to look at stop level information. And so this allows you to get more search options because we're able to give you more geographic ways to search for information. So we give you a couple other filters on the left side of the screen, which would be things like major statistical area or even census tract. And so we're able to, using stop information, allow users to get even more granular with the information that they're searching here. And so you'll be able to filter by a given stop, and it'll also show you if the stop is serviced by multiple routes. It'll show you a breakdown of what those routes are and what the statistics are for those routes. I mentioned the help page. I think this is probably of the whole dashboard, the most important piece here is a little bit of context here. So this is something that we're kind of always going to be looking to improve upon, and we do have some, I'll get into some of the future plans here in a later slide, but we have this help documentation here to support users who either aren't comfortable or have questions using this dashboard. And so the first thing that you see here in the help documentation is basically just a how do I navigate this page? And so this will give people an idea about, okay, I just clicked this, why did it do that? You can reference this how-to documentation here. We've also got a tab down there that says glossary. This will give you a list of all of the different terms inside of this dashboard that we determined that might be or not be super straightforward. And so we've broken those down and described exactly what those are. Even things that maybe seem kind of straightforward, but maybe have a operational nuance that we wanted to be able to describe in there. We also got a data tab here. This one's also very important. This one actually goes into further detail on how the numbers are produced. And I wanted to say that because we wanted to make sure that we're describing in detail the process and the procedure that we do, and to make sure that everybody understands that this is, again, not going to be considered official ridership numbers. These are estimates that are meant to serve as complements to the official numbers that MTS and NCTD are reporting. And so we encourage people to use this dashboard, but if they have a need for data, to reach out to either us or NCTD or MTS for support, either using this dashboard or exporting this data. So I mentioned there's a couple of limitations with this dashboard and some future work. Starting with some of the limitations, this data begins in calendar year January 2024. The reason for that is because that's going to be the beginning of the first calendar year that we made the transition from our old passenger counting program software provider to our new one. We made the decision because we felt that it was appropriate to only compare apples to apples. We didn't want to compare data from different data sources in this dashboard. And so moving forward, we'll have that be the beginning of the data that we're reporting in this dashboard. However, we plan to have that rotate on a rolling 5-year cadence. So once we hit 5 years, we'll then begin cycling out old data and only incorporating new data. That's also due to a limitation of the storage size of this data. It takes a lot of computational power to be able to produce these estimates and visualizations that you see on the screen here. And because of that, we decided to try to focus on performance of this dashboard instead of having people wait minutes or even longer to try to run a specific query if we had too much data in there. So we wanted to also mention that the design and the experience builder functionalities limit what we're able to do in terms of allowing users to do certain things. What you're able to do in this dashboard is a lot, but there are certain things and certain connections on the back end that we're not able to resolve. And so we definitely welcome feedback. And if there's things that maybe users find that aren't currently available, but could be beneficial, we'd love to know what those are. But there are certain limitations with using the dashboard that are built in with this platform. And so we do have some platform limitations in terms of creating certain visuals. And I have an example here of some graduated symbology. For example, basically that just means like some of the mapping components that you may be able to use using a different program maybe aren't available using this one. And then the estimation discrepancies. So the estimates require corrections periodically due to factors such as like sample rate or gaps in the data. Basically, we just wanted to mention here that the limitations in this data are really one of our biggest focuses here, because we wanted to make sure that we're focusing on accuracy and also making sure that we are comprehensive in the data that we're reporting here. And so kind of as changes happen, we want to make sure that we're getting those updated regularly. And so if there's anything that comes up as we're getting to learn how we are satisfying or not satisfying the users of this dashboard, we want to make sure that we're able to kind of have a two-way communication, because that was one of the reasons we had this product be something that lives on SANDAG servers, is that we control and we own this product. And so now we're able to make changes as the needs change as well. I mentioned that this was something that SANDAG owns, and as requirements change, we can make those changes as well. And this is also flexible enough to adapt to changing landscapes. One of the limitations that I didn't mention in the previous slide is that this is going to be specifically for APC data, so automated passenger count data. This is something that is pretty ubiquitous across our fixed route transit system, but for non-fixed route transit or for services like micro transit that don't have automated passenger counters that are managed by MTS and NCTD, we don't have APC data for that, and so that's not going to be present in this dashboard. If there comes a day where that is something that is incorporated into the APC system by other operators, that's something that we could end up actually looking to add. But at this current moment, that's not something that's currently available. And so that's one of the things that we designed this dashboard to do, is to be flexible enough to be able to incorporate different modes, different routes, changes to routes as those changes come up. I mentioned what those goals were earlier in terms of creating accurate and reliable data, but then also making something that's useful to people. Another goal of this dashboard here was to be able to help satisfy some Transnet performance audit recommendations. And so a lot of those focused on creating a way for decision makers to be able to view in a transparent way the type of data that SANDAG is referencing and other agency partners are referencing, but also making sure that we are creating a tool that decision makers can use to determine how certain routes are performing. And while this isn't meant to make any conclusive decisions, this is something that we view as a great tool to help support decision makers in determining the outcomes that they're looking to achieve. And with that, I'll wrap up and open the floor to any questions that anybody might have. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, that was perfect timing, because I think we just lost quorum, but I think we just gained it again. So very good for that. So thanks for the presentation. I'll just make one additional comment, which is thanks for making the link work. It's I just checked it right now, and I think it's the first time I've clicked on it would have actually taken me to the data. So the link in the staff report is working, and people can actually look at it now. Francesca, do we have any public comment?
Thanks, Chair. We have 3 comments on this item. First will be Cesar Javier, followed by Jeffrey Huter.
I think we are one of the seniors in this hall. My partner probably is younger than us, but this is our observation on ridership. And thank you for your presentation. You are young and you must be idealistic and honest, I hope. We have had acquaintances in riding trolley and buses. You miss something because you are telling us about the tool, not only for quantitative or qualitative aspect of it, but we were observant. Geography, demography, diversities, social, psychological, economics. You can see from the ridership who are poor, who are sick, who are fearful. Yes. If a trolley gets off from District 8 and goes to the center of the city, they fearful of their survival. Hey, the city is not helping us. We are victims of the air pollution, river pollution, water pollution, land pollution. What are they doing? Where is the money, Mayor? That's what you observe from the city residents, District 8. Where do you live? District 8. Did you receive your air purifier? What air purifier? They do not know. That's the one that we would like to see in your report, sir. Rational, logical, because this is all for San Diegans. What is mobility circulation, by the way? It's for man, for humans. Survivability. So they may thrive and bring about more development in the region, something like that. The security guard is watching me if I get off the item agenda. Sir, thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Jeff Huter, followed by Blair Beekman.
Thank you, board members, and also thank you for making the link work this morning. We haven't a chance to really look at everything here, but this looks like to be a very good tool to allow people to really understand what's going on with transit as opposed to just looking out the window and anecdotally assessing things. So one of the things that we particularly focus on at Neighbors for a Better San Diego is kind of how to make transit more effective within a large dispersed suburban automobile focused footprint, and being able to look at actually where transit is being successful and unsuccessful, and kind of looking at where should we be densifying around transit to sort of create a city within a city where we have our suburban automobile footprint and we also have a successful transit focused core within those areas. Some things I just like to highlight a little bit. The fact that you have stop data is particularly important because one of the things that we look at from MTS data is that the number of transfers that somebody makes has a huge impact on whether they take transit, and being able to see where people are sort of getting stuck and where they're trying to triangulate through these transfer points will help San Diego, I think, plan better for future transit. The other thing that I would like to see in here, you have the APC data, and if we could measure latency at stops, so how long does a bus stop? Because we do a lot of planning around, express planning, and if you're stopping for, 20 seconds, 30 seconds at each stop, that's having a big impact on things. So being able to add that to your data. I am curious on slide 7, how you measure trip length, since you're not identifying people by person as they get on and off the bus. And then the other thing I might suggest is we're looking at fare and price elasticity through this would be helpful.
Thank you very much. Our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item. I have to be a bit cautious in talking about this item. There was the monthly county public transit public meeting for Santa Clara County last night. They had issues on future technology issues within their buses that I spoke a lot about biometric tech and how important that is, a topic of conversation that we learn to have openly. And I kind of overstepped my bounds and how to better talk about it last night. Hopefully I can be a bit more sensitive here today. I heard nice things today. There really was a sense that this program wants to be a light program in ways that works with both customers, community, and, research people. That's an awesome combination if you can do that well. You have to be accountable if this sort of technology is going to be a bit more than what was suggested here in the public meeting process. If there is going to be biometric tech, that doesn't have to be so frightening to say in public. And if you don't say it in public, that it loses credibility of what you're trying to build, an accessible tech program here and project that invites all parts of the community. If you're not going to be honest about the tech involved, that defeats the whole purpose. So I think we have a really, really important goal that we use biometric tech a lot, but we're still really afraid to talk about it openly in the public space. And good luck how to do that. The previous public commenter, he's really good on housing issues in the city of San Diego. Density issues are really important in San Diego right at this time. So he's mentioning an important subject matter. Good luck how you're working on these sort of issues. Thank you for your time.
That concludes the public comments.
Any committee member comments, questions, thoughts? Seeing, go ahead, Sean.
Super simple. Thank you for doing this. The data is really helpful to have, and I appreciate that you all are working on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And I concur. It's really fun. Wish I had more time to play around with it, but it was pretty easy to use just for the few minutes I looked at it. So the data is really good to see, and I'm looking forward to what we can learn from it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we've reached the end of our regular agenda. I will make a public service announcement for those who are affected, which is I've been told that as of right now, I-5 North is closed at Del Mar Heights Road, roughly thereabouts. So you might want to be looking at your mapping software if you're headed that way. I don't think I can fit anyone else on the back of my bike, unfortunately. But and then
The coaster is available.
the coaster works too. And also I would just give a heads up. It looks like I looked at the currently approved schedule for the committees for next year. It looks like we will be moving under the current approval to the first or second Fridays next year at 1 p.m. for every meeting. So we'll always be in the afternoon as which I wasn't consulted on this, so don't blame me. But just keep that in mind. And even more notable, we have fewer time slots than we did this year. So I would assume most of them will be relatively substantial and will be going to 4 o'clock, at least on some of those meetings, unless we can add some. Ms. Hudson.
Chair, do you think that we could vote on whether we want to go to 1 o'clock?
I think we know who to talk to. Yeah, but so just a heads up. So with that, as it stands, the next Transportation Committee is scheduled for Friday, January 9th at 1 p.m. That is a little bit in flux, so keep an eye on your email, folks. I hope everybody has a truly wonderful holiday break, and it's been a pleasure working with the committee over this past year, and look forward to seeing everybody next year. We're adjourned.